Live from KTTC, your weather authority. This is KTTC News at 10.
They killed that man on this curb. They killed him on the curb. Not too far from my house. He is dead. But us looting and flashing up our own neighborhood is not going to help at all.
Let's march as kings and queens, Let's march. Instead of this violence, hatred, let's spread peace and love.
For the third night in a row now, protests continue in the Twin Cities calling for justice for George Floyd after he died in Minneapolis police custody. A graphic video showing an officer's knee pressed into his neck.
Here's a live look at tonight's protests. As you can see, devastating images emerging tonight. But now, as you just heard, residents and leaders are begging for peace. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We have crews on the ground in Minneapolis tonight as these protests continue. The
governor has now issued the National Guard to assist in these protests that are turning into riots. First, let's check in with our Uba Ali, who's been in the area all day long. And Uba, what are you seeing tonight?
Good evening, Tom and Caitlin. I'm on East Lake Street and Minnehaha Avenue, where the majority of destruction happened Wednesday night. And as the sun sets today, as you can see behind me, more riots, more violent protests happening. Earlier today, throughout the day, people chanting Black Lives Matter peacefully. Other times, protesters turning violent. Others taking matters into their own hands and throwing rocks and water bottles towards police, and that is when things went violent today. Tear gas, rubber bullets being tossed into the crowd just so police can help render aid to a man who was stabbed. Mixed emotions throughout the crowd, some echoing leaders and saying enough is enough when it comes to violence.
See, back in the day when Martin Luther King marched, it wasn't about violence and none of that. It was about marching the street. But we over here destroying our own community. Like, what kind of message are we passing? Hatred. We don't want to pass that. If we want to stop something and eliminate something, we got to use our mouth instead of violence.
I've been here all day, Tom and Caitlin, and what I can tell you is that community leaders are pleading with these folks to continue to peacefully protest. For now, up in South Minneapolis, Uba Ali, KTTC News.
Thank you, Uba, and our team coverage continues. Our Maria Bray is in Minneapolis tonight, where she's been at a peaceful demonstration in downtown Minneapolis all throughout the day. Cam, how are things going tonight?
Caitlin, like you said, downtown Minneapolis on 5th and Hennepin, and we're hoping that it stays peaceful. There are hundreds of protesters that have blocked off this intersection, and there are police officers that are in tactical gear. We saw officers on their horses. We saw officers, state troopers also in tactical gear, and people here are pretty much saying that they're not going to stop until justice is served for George Floyd.
The police! No justice, no peace!
My client, I knew him even though he's not family. I mean, my nephew's Philando Castile, and it's just too much. It's too much. And I'm hoping if anything, we can really get some justice to the county attorney's office.
We simply want the police who did this to go to jail. And ideally, if we can't get it, so be it. But ideally, because the Hennepin County prosecutor, Michael Freeman, has never, ever indicted a white cop, for killing a black person. He's never, ever indicted a white person for killing a black person. And so nobody trusts, he's not trusted.
Because enough is enough.
Don't get no justice, no peace.
White people have white privilege, and that is what we need to use. We have access to leaders. We have access to police. We have access to our city council and our mayors and our governors. And we must use our white skin to protect people of color and indigenous people.
Yeah, so behind me, you see there are hundreds of people that are saying George Floyd. They're putting their hands up. They're yelling at the officers over here, and so it's a lot going on right now in Minneapolis. Maria Bray, KTTC News.
Still a very dynamic night there. Thank you, Maria. And the Minneapolis police officer accused of killing George Floyd by kneeling on his neck has a service record that includes 3 shooting incidents, nearly 20 complaints, and 2 letters of reprimand. City Online records do not include any details of the complaints against Officer Derek Chauvin. However, a video footage shows him kneeling on Floyd's neck for nearly 8 minutes. The 4 officers were fired. on Tuesday. And we're going to hear from the FBI in a few minutes, but first tonight, let's get a check on that weather. Chief Meteorologist Nick Jansen is out on the weather patio. Nick?
Hey, good evening, Tom. As we take a look at our Lewis and Otto live camera, current temperatures continue to be in the lower 60s. So we sit at 61 degrees. We have some clear skies outside now. With the clear skies, we'll start to drop those temperatures down. Winds out of the west-northwest at about 10 miles per hour. Currently across southeast Minnesota, northeast Iowa, we still have those temperatures in the lower 60s in Rochester and in Preston. Currently mid to upper 60s in Zumbrota and in Red Wing, right at 65 and 66 degrees. As we take a look at future track radar, we continue to deal with some clear skies, so cloud cover moving out of the area. We'll have some sunshine on the way for tomorrow as we have a little bit of cloud cover, partly cloudy skies on the way throughout your day on Friday. So we'll continue to deal with some sunshine for tomorrow. Temperatures a little different for Friday because notice by 1 p.m. we're only at 60 degrees. We'll have some breezy north-northwesterly winds anywhere from about 10 to 20 miles per hour. Almanac from today, we ended up getting to 74 degrees. That's just slightly above average for this time of year. Average high temperature in Rochester at 72. We were at 74. We'll continue to see some below average temperatures through the weekend until we head towards next week where we're into maybe the mid to upper 80s. We'll track out those temperatures coming up in your Weather Authority forecast. We'll send it back to you.
Nick, thank you. And the outcry of many protesters is that they want to see the officers involved in George Floyd's death charged. The FBI and Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are investigating, and federal and state officials, along with Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman, gave some insight into what they're weighing when it comes to this investigation. And our Zach Fuller joins us with something said today that's getting a lot of online reaction. Zach.
Yeah, good evening, Tom. That's right. That comment from Freeman talked about evidence in the case, a comment that's now being further explained by his office. Officials and agents on the case all agreed that they will be as expeditious as possible, but also said they will not cut any corners. The FBI is asking for help.
We need the community's help. There were folks there on the scene, not folks that we couldn't identify necessarily at the time. We need to know who they are. Come forward. If you have a video, please share it. We want to do, as quickly as we can, a thorough investigation to get answers to those questions.
Prosecutors are warning that this process will not be rushed.
These need to be done right. Please, give me and give United States Attorney the time to do this right, and we will bring you justice, I promise.
They also commented on the violent protests.
Peaceful protest is good. It advocates our rights, and it also calls forth the witnesses that the United States Attorney wants us to come forward. Violence is not. Violence hampers our case. It takes valuable police resources away from our investigation, and it also harms innocent people who had nothing to do with that.
Then, Freeman offered this comment that's drawing strong reaction online.
But my job in the end is to prove that he violated a criminal statute, and there is other evidence that does not support a criminal charge. We need to wade through all of that evidence and to come through with a meaningful determination, and we are doing that to the best of our ability.
Freeman has since walked back that comment. A statement released later by the county attorney's office says it is critical to look at all evidence in the case because at the time of trial, all evidence will be used. Reporting in the studio, Zach Fuller, KTTC News.
Zach, thank you. And our coverage of the fallout over Floyd's death in police custody continues in just a few moments.
The tragedy bringing a prominent national figure to Minneapolis.
KTTC, your weather authority, with Tom Overley, Caitlin Alexander, Chief Meteorologist Nick Jansen, and sports with Pat Lund. KTTC News at 10 continues.
Our coverage of protests and calls for justice after George Floyd's death continues.
And today, renowned Baptist minister and social activist Reverend Al Sharpton met with faith leaders in Minneapolis. Joined by local clergy and activists, the Reverend hosted a prayer gathering and called for accountability from local leaders in the same spot that George Floyd was killed. Urging others to join in the We Can't Breathe movement, the Reverend demanded the arrest of the 4 officers in Floyd's death.
We come to stand with this family and stand with the community because this is a struggle that we've had all over this country. And let's not tell half the story. The reason why you see the anger in Minneapolis is because this is not the first time.
Right.
And this is not the first time you ignored the rights of people.
Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, joined Reverend Sharpton in Minneapolis today. Garner was killed in a similar circumstance in New York City, where he was put in a chokehold by an officer and died. The officer involved was fired 5 years later. Today, Carr commended Mayor Frey moving quickly.
The officers involved in my son's murder, it was lies after lies, cover up after cover up. I just commend this mayor for acting so swiftly. Because in my case, it took 5 years just to fire one officer, and it would not have happened if I wouldn't have kept pressing on.
Following the vigil, Sharpton and Carr went to the state capitol to voice their support of the arrest of the 4 officers involved. Reverend Sharpton says they'll be back next week.
And Pastor Tier Webster, the director of urban initiatives of the Church of God in Christ, works with some in Rochester who've been previously incarcerated through Damascus Way Reentry Center. He spoke with KTTC today about what he thinks needs to happen from here.
I think if we want our voices to be heard, we're going to have to take radical movement. In looting and rioting, I'm not damning, I'm not looking down on those that are doing that. They want their voices heard. But I'll tell you, if we start really starting to create personal wealth among ourselves and promoting Black business, things of that nature, and pursuing Black excellent leadership, that would make my heart well, and those would be the sort of things that we can pass on to the generations to come. And I think we all would benefit from that.
Well, Twin Cities leaders continue their call for peaceful protests. Messages from several of them is coming up.
And temperatures will be on the downside of things as we head towards the weekend. Highs only in the mid-60s both Friday and Saturday. Humidity is out of the forecast at least through Sunday before we hit next week. We'll talk about that in your weather with the forecast right after this.
Here's another live look at the devastation happening in Minneapolis tonight. Demonstrations have turned violent now for the 3rd night in a row.
As you can see, there are buildings on fire. People are describing it as a war zone. Today, Governor Walz signed Executive Order 2065, activating the Minnesota National Guard to help protect Minnesotans' safety and maintain peace in the wake of George Floyd's death. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has been clear that he wants to see the officers involved in Floyd's death to be held accountable. Today, he hosted a news conference amid ongoing protests. He challenged the city of Minneapolis to be better than we have been. Frey thanked the state and governor for assistance in the riots, but denounced the violence, quoting George Floyd's girlfriend.
He was all about love and all about peace. He did not receive that love and that peace from our officers on the night of May 25th. But we can still honor him by practicing those values during a time of great strife.
Until we name this virus, this disease that has infected America for the past 400 years, we will never, ever resolve this issue.
Frey stated that he hopes this can be a turning point in history for positive change. He concluded by reminding Minneapolis residents that there is a need for peace more than ever during a pandemic. Frey stressed protecting the stores and infrastructure in place that is meant to help fight against the coronavirus.
Well, the city of St. Paul has also seen some protests tonight with vandalism and fires. Today, the St. Paul Police Department, along with the mayor, hosted a press conference also calling for peace.
Are resolved to do everything in our power to figure out how to keep this from ever happening again. We've heard from the Floyd family who have called for peace during this time. And unfortunately, we also have individuals in our community who are taking the microphone, who are taking the attention, who are taking the focus off of those peaceful protesters, who are frustrated, who are enraged, who desperately desire for something to change.
Well, St. Paul's police chief says he understands the need to protest, but the well-being of the city, he says, is at risk.
family. We know there's a lot of anger. We know there's a lot of hurt. We understand that. However, what we can't tolerate are people who are using this as an opportunity, who are tearing down the name of Mr. Floyd for opportunity to commit crimes in our cities.
One business hit hard from looting is Target. Target has announced it will close its stores in Minneapolis and St. Paul. All 20 stores in the area will close. This coming as the nation is seeing video like this one of the Targets in St. Paul getting looted and destroyed. In an online statement today, Target announced its focus is on its team members' safety and helping the community heal. The statement also says, "We are heartbroken by the death of George Floyd and the pain it is causing our community."
We were finally able to see some sunshine late this afternoon and evening, and that helped bump our high temperatures into the mid to even upper 70s in some areas. We have some cool weather on the way as we head towards the weekend. That's leading our weather headlines. Then next week, thunderstorms return, and we have summer-like temperatures on the way by the middle portion of next week. Future track radar currently outside, just clear skies. We'll continue to clear those conditions out through the overnight hours tonight and through the day tomorrow. So we'll have some mostly sunny skies on the way for your Friday. As we zoom things out, cloud cover continues to move to our south and southeast. That frontal boundary, you can see where that is well off to our southeast. So quiet conditions in store for us through the overnight hours tonight. As we look outside, currently our Lewis and Otto live camera, we have some clear skies here in Rochester. Finally, temperatures down to 61 degrees. Winds are out of the west-northwest at about 10 miles per hour. Dew point currently at 45 degrees. We'll deal with dew points the next several days as we head towards the weekend. Only in those mid-40s, so it won't feel humid outside by any means. Temperatures currently at 67 in Plainview. It's 59 in Preston, Mason City at 62 degrees. Our temperature outlook through the weekend, watch temperatures. We're only at 66 for the high tomorrow, 67 Saturday. Then we head towards next week. We're back to the mid-70s, even the lower 80s by Tuesday and into Wednesday. Next week, June 3rd through the 7th, we're at 80% chance at seeing above average temperatures as we head towards next week. Future track here as we breeze through it through the overnight hours tonight. Increased cloud cover a little bit, partly sunny for tomorrow. I think we see plenty of sunshine still during the late afternoon hours. High temperatures warming up into the mid 60s. 49 for the overnight low tonight, mainly clear and cool this evening. Tomorrow, we're at 66 degrees for the high, partly sunny at times. We'll have some cooler temperatures on the way through Friday and Saturday. 68 for the high Saturday, 72 on Sunday with some sunshine. That is for your Weather Authority forecast. Tom, we'll send it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Riots continue to grow in Minneapolis.
We're taking another live look up next. As we've told you tonight, protests are ongoing across the Twin Cities.
And our Camaria Bray is in the downtown area of Minneapolis where the situation is progressing. And Camaria, what do you have for us?
Yeah, Tom, progressing, that's correct. We're on 5th and Hennepin Avenue, and there are hundreds of people that are in different areas of downtown Minneapolis. I'm gonna have my photographer kind of zoom in so you guys can see what's happening. This is actually on the street where the light rail would usually be, but of course it's not functioning today. Down there are police officers that are on horses. There are state troopers that are in tactical gear. And blocks down, there are more protesters. They're in very different areas. Sorry if you saw that sign. And so it's a lot going on right here, but we'll be here covering it in Minneapolis. Camaria Bray, KTTC News.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe out there, Camaria. Up next in sports, the NFL takes another step towards a sense of normalcy. We'll show you what they're doing.
Plus, Par for the Course returns to the airwaves tonight. We'll take you west on Highway 14, see if Mark can practice what he preaches here after the break.
What's going on, sports fans? I'm Mark Palos. Pat Lund has the night off. Tonight, we saw the sports party in the NFL where Commissioner Roger Goodell has sent a letter to teams outlining the league's next steps towards reopening club facilities. In the letter, Goodell says the league expects that coaches will be added to the list of employees allowed to enter the facilities sometime next week. He went on to say the NFL is working with state and local governments that have not announced concrete plans on reopening and will confirm an exact date when coaches can return to the facilities as soon as possible. Goodell said the league is working with the Players Association on setting up guidelines that will allow some players to return to team facilities on a limited basis. Now, to hockey, according to the NHL insiders Pierre LeBrun and Elliot Friedman, the NHL training camps will not open until at least July 10th. They go on to say that teams would get between 3 to 4 weeks of training camp and that the 24-team playoff would not begin until August at the earliest. However, small group workouts could begin sometime next week, but right now, players and coaches are still under a league-mandated quarantine. Now to golf, there won't be any tractor putters sinking putts this year's in the Quad Cities as the 2020 John Deere Classic has been canceled. The tournament is held on the Illinois side of the Illinois-Iowa border, and the land of Lincoln will not allow gatherings of more than 50 people throughout the summer. That means it was logistically impossible for the John Deere Classic to go on, but that doesn't mean there will be no golf that weekend. The PGA Tour seeks to find a new tournament host for July 9th through 12th, and ESPN reports that TPC Sawgrass in Florida is a possibility. This year's John Deere Classic would have been the Quad Cities' 50th PGA Tour event and the 21st played at Deere Run. Now to running. For the first time in its 124-year history, the Boston Marathon has been canceled. Although a few dozen elite athletes compete for the crown, the race includes around 30,000 average Joes who run the race for recreation or charity reasons each year. The race says they'll hold a virtual event instead, and each racer that can prove they ran the required 26.2 miles will receive a finisher's medal. And lastly, it's Thursday night, so that means it's time for par for the course. This week, we took the drive west on Highway 14 to Owatonna Country Club to take on a par 4 that is bisected by the Straight River. Welcome back to Par for the Course. This week we are in Owatonna at Owatonna Country Club with their general manager, Dan Jaycott. Here we are in hole number 15. We have a hazard here to cover. What's the key to play in this hole?
Well, the key to this hole is a tee shot. You want to hit a high fade around the corner if you can. There is a lot of room to the left if you go long or left, but really you want to be putting yourself in a good position to a raised green.
Don't go in the bunker.
You want it a little more cut. You went over the bunker, so you'll have a shot, but you're going to be restricted by those trees.
That shot is what you call social distancing from the fairway.
Unfortunately, avoid the fairway. We also avoided the bunker, though, which is good news. What do we need for this next shot?
Well, you're going to have to hit a high shot, a big draw around the trees, but you have to get it up high to get up to that raised green. All right, you're going to want to get this up in the air. Like I said, play a little draw, but the main thing is to clear the trees. Draw. Draw.
There was a 0% chance that ball was going to draw.
Kick. I think you're up there.
Well, we're chipping a putt?
Yeah, I think so.
There we go. Didn't expect to end up here.
Yeah.
How's the green going to react after I get out of this junk?
Yeah, this isn't the optimal spot to come in from. You're way above the ball, and it's going to slope away from you pretty fast.
A lot of people say there's multiple takes, but this lie shows you it's the real thing.
Who'd want to hit a shot for TV out of that junk?
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
All right, Mark. You left it a little above it. It didn't run out like we thought.
It's about a 20-footer for par, but focus on the raised cup.
And it's going to be coming towards me, so it's going to be fast, but it's also going to be sliding to this side.
Well. Oh, that's a par. That counts.
Nice.
Now, was I helped by the raised cup? Maybe, but you got to play the hole you're on. And that's Look at Sports on this Thursday night. We'll be back after this.
And before we go, we are getting breaking news out of Minneapolis tonight.
Yeah, just now into our newsroom, protesters have set fire to the front entrance of the 3rd Precinct Police Building in South Minneapolis. This just happened within the last few minutes. Again, this is live footage you're watching. This all started the riots on Monday when video was released, as you know, showing 4 officers arresting George Floyd, holding him down while one officer used his knee on his neck for more than 5 minutes as he pleaded that he could not breathe.
Floyd died, the officers were fired, but the call for justice continues as many are asking for charges against these officers. Tonight, as you can see, the city literally on fire As the demonstrations continue, you can see the crowd now throwing what appears to be boxes, some of those wooden barricades as well, back into the flames as that crowd, look, continues to grow tonight.
Right, again, this is live footage. Protesters setting fire to the front entrance of the 3rd Precinct Police Building that is in South Minneapolis. In this ongoing story of protests up in the Twin Cities.
A heartbreaking week in Minnesota.
Absolutely. Meantime, a quick weather check if we have a few minutes or moments.
Yeah, so 7-day forecast, 66 for the high coming up on Friday, 68 on Saturday, 72 on Sunday. Beautiful weekend for those of us here in southeast Minnesota. Plenty of sunshine on the way.
Our coverage of the riots continues tomorrow. Thanks for watching us tonight.
Stay safe and have a good night.